Aging is a privilege. Thank you, Jenny. I just wanted to start off by saying thank you for our friendship. The day I met you, my life changed, and my life has only gotten better because of our friendship. And it has gone through many things, through a club kid murder, through drug addiction, through September 11th, through marriage, through childbirth, through career changes, through everything, adulthood, and getting older. And you you are just that bitch. You are that person. You are that one. You are the one that is still in my life, that I can call and not talk to for a minute and just say, I need to be grounded. I need to cry. I need to say something that I don't know who to tell or whatever it is. And when I got sober, you were there. And when I relapsed and got sober, you were there. And so you have been with me through everything, and you have held my hand, and you have let me cry on your shoulder. And so for that and our vintage friendship, I say I love you and thank you.
I love you, Kenny.
I Googled you, and it says
Ooh.
the second life of 90s club kid Jenny Denbrow. Okay. Hey, you're gay. Aging is a privilege.
I thought I was on my ninth life, but two is
I
fine.
don't know. It says the queen of club kids is now part of a different club. In it's the 1995 King and Queen of Manhattan pageant at Limelight, New York's most tour club, and everyone's on Special K. The MC announces the one, the only genitalia. A young woman, I know, a young woman in a giant blonde wig and a pink dress takes the stage. She proceeds to stomp down the runway, looking both physically and mentally out of this world. Then rips off the blonde wig to reveal her fully shaved head. She won the pageant.
Sure did.
Yes, you did. This was all captured by the Party Monster shockumentary in 1998, the documentary about the rise and demise of the club kids. Her real world name is Jenny Denbrow. And today, the former Calvin Klein model and Jeremy Scott Muse is in a total different club, the Lower East Side Girls Club. She is the club associate executive director. Is that still the title?
I am the executive director now.
I see. Woo.
Yep, just keep on going up.
Boss lady.
Boss lady.
When people hear our name, they think that we're a rec center, she says. But the girls' club may be the farthest thing from a dusky basketball gym. A recent tour led by Denbrow took upwards of an hour due to the sheer size of its 35,000 square foot facility. Mm-hmm. There is a state-of-art science club complete with high-powered microscopes and lab equipment, a fashion studio where the girls learn the fundamentals of design and making clothes, a culinary center, art and dance and yoga studio, a full-on music production studio complete with an Airstream trailer for podcasting. Oh, did I mention the planetarium? There's one of those too. So welcome, Jenny.
Thank you.
Woman of my life. I want to say the year, the decade, just my life.
The life.
We met when you were 15 years old and at a club. So I ran away from my Mormon Republican father, and when I decided to come out, I almost got engaged to a woman. I know.
Ooh, Jenny, please.
I was like, I'm a liar. So I left, and I remember my Mormon father said, if you put all the freaks and fags on an island, I found it. It's called Manhattan. I lived there for 20-something years, and it saved my life. And the people saved my life. And when I got there, I found the three things that made me just like, and that was vodka, cocaine, and women's clothing.
There you go.
There you go. And I found you. And I remember we met, we dressed up. Um, I got a job at Patricia Field, and then you came. We were the first club kids and Walt to work.
Mhm.
Um, and I remember my fondest memory. I have two really New Yorky memories. Is when you and I dressed up and went to Wigstock together, and I got hair, and you made tutus, and it was my favorite New York moment because it was like something Wigstock. Shout out to my favorite drag queen, Lady Bunny. Wigstock was something spectacular, and it was an event, and it was like everyone from your planet is just there, and it was that New York moment. And then the second New York moment was when your mom and you took me to see Angels in America, and it was a play on the
It was on the pier, and it was called, you know what? It was not Angels in America. It was a production by On Guard Arts, which was a site-specific theater company that my dad was deeply involved with for many, many, many years. I cannot remember what the title of the performance was, but I do remember how extraordinary and powerful and just sitting there on the piers, like a hub of gay life, and really getting into the AIDS crisis and just the beauty and the fear and the grief, and just what an extraordinary production that was. And to be able to share it with you and my mama, by the way, Mama Lou, or Mama Gina, sends her love.
I
You
love
know,
that woman. I remember when my first holiday back, and like I think I was trying to stop drinking, and I went to your house for Thanksgiving, and
yeah,
your mom your mom was just so, and your dad was
yeah,
so wonderfully inviting, and just what a beautiful example of, I mean, I have a relationship with my mom now, so I'm not going to say
yeah.
a loving parent. I do believe my mom loves me, but it it was my first thing where that whole family just was like a warm hug. And I hadn't experienced that really. So
Yeah, I mean, my actual middle name is Lucky. And yeah,
look,
Lucky. Oh, my teeth.
I was gonna say, show us your lip.
Show us your lip. Oh, at least it's this one. I'm incredibly fortunate and lucky to have parents who accepted me and loved me and understood that I had to go through a lot of things. And I, was again lucky enough to come out the other side, that I didn't end up dead. But yeah, I mean that, the power of love and acceptance, especially from parents, especially in the world that we were in, and also, deeply loving my chosen family, and understanding that many of us did not have the love and support, and many were tossed out of their homes because they were gay. And to be able to show love to my friends was also really important to them and to me.
It was, I think it was like there was so much suppressed, like I remember my dad saying, don't play with girls, don't wear pink, don't wear anything shiny or shimmery. Like, because I was, you know how they say today, they say, don't say gay. It's like, girl, I go to the grocery store and my whole body says it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not, I couldn't escape it. And I remember I was so gay that people that had come out of the closet wouldn't hang out with me, because who had come out of the closet wouldn't hang out with me because I would gay them up in a time of AIDS. Remember, it was
Yeah.
the 80s. So when I was a kid, and so to find that island, and to find my friends, and to find that creativity, and to find all of that stuff that I suppressed, and the fantasy, you encouraged it, and you encouraged the creativity. You, like you said, you brought me to watch a show and you showed me that side of New York. And when I knew this was going to happen, like when we were doing this, I was nervous about talking about the past and all of that stuff. So with my nervous energy, I made an outfit. And so I went into the cupboard and I was like, what can I make in a club kid manner? And I hadn't used glue or any of that or a glue gun in decades. And so I found pasta because I haven't been eating it because it's been bikini season. And so, of course. And so I pulled out the pasta and I made an outfit. And so I will show you. And
What?
oh,
Ooh,
look, I made pasta pasties.
pasta
That's all I had
paste.
around. And a nice neckline because demure. And
Of
then a
course.
crown
Oh my,
and a
I'm
pasta
getting
and
very
club
hungry.
kid and a club.
Ah,
I also, because you need options, I also made some jewelry, but this might be too much.
too much. It's not enough.
Did you
What?
say too much?
Come
Um,
on.
who doesn't love a macaroni necklace?
I mean, listen, I right after this interview, I'm going into the pantry and going to be creating some pasta extravaganza outfit. So thank you for the inspo.
Well, now I guess we'll talk
Okay.
about that part of our lives.
Yes.
So describe the first night you snuck away to go to a New York nightclub. How old were you and where'd you go?
The real first night I went out was when I went to the building. Um, Kenny did reject me and Carlin. So, we then, had to go back to Patricia Field and get our looks together and get it together. And I think I was like 14 or 15. And we went to the building. We went right up, and this time he ushered us in. And I just remember the music. I remember Tonight was playing by those guys. That is the name of the house music song that I still listen to this day because it instantly transports me back to that time. And then I remember there was like this big glass room above the dance floor, and that was like the VIP room. So we went in there, and weirdly enough, we met someone named Larry Seidler, who was very good friends with Michael. Um, Fun fact, Larry Seidler just sent me every episode of Pee-wee's Playhouse like 2 weeks ago. So anyways, he's still around. So I walked into this space. I remember seeing Walt paper. I remember seeing Pebbles, the most gorgeous girl I had ever laid eyes on. I remember like Christopher Comp. I guess I remember Michael. I'm not sure if you were there then because I'm trying to recall. Were you at the building?
It was one of the first places I went, but I had got there after that basement party had already
Yeah, because
I
I
came
remember
after.
when I laid eyes on you, the Jenny Kenny chemistry, was, yeah. So that was my first night out. And I just was like, I want to live here. I want to know who these people are. Just the looks, the makeup, the way they moved. I just, absolutely became, obsessed. I just wanted this to be my world. And then I made it my world.
You did. You did. And what was the first party that you hosted?
At the Palladium, Carlin and we had a birthday party. I think I was turning 16 I don't remember which room. It was super, obviously our names at that point didn't really, no one was very excited to see us, I would just say. It wasn't like we were known club kids or club people. We were trying to like, enter into that world. So we hosted that, which was our birthday party, and then we bounced around to like Limelight and wherever else.
I loved the Palladium.
Oh my,
A
just
steam room
gorgeous
with all
space.
the big gears. I
Yeah.
remember when I first moved there, Walt and Kevin Aviance were the king and queen of the Style Summit, and me and Desi and me, Desi, and Sushi did a party called Level 57, I believe, and it was on the medium part, and it was, I think it was 1991 or 92. Yeah. And I used to get in that cage that would go across the thing to MC whatever it was, and I remember being in that cage in one of my favorite outfits, and it was at the beginning. I had gone to Abracadabra and I bought like a little short pixie red wig, and it had
Mhm.
bangs, but it had a string, and if you pulled the string, the bangs went up.
Oh, yeah. I
I
mean,
had a nurse's outfit on, and then I had glued with a glue gun on these like nurse like spectacles, like two cocktail magnets. And it was like at the beginning of the our club kid thing. It was like 91. And I remember that space. I hadn't thought about it in a long time. I remember
it
that.
was so grand and the staircase. And I mean, that was, just such a legendary club. God, that word legendary. But I will say, I think, Kenny, you brought like levity, you brought like laughter. There was a lot of kind of dark looks, especially as we kind of went into the darker days. But I think there was like a sense of whimsy and fun and like laughing. And I just remember our times together. I don't know if I ever have laughed so much. I mean, it was really about fun and expression, but you were such a bright light, and you were so playful the way that you put yourself together. And it was like very cheeky. And I just have those memories. I mean, your looks were just iconic, and the shoes, and I mean, all of it. There was just always like a bit of a wink, wink with it.
I'm going to say something like publicly because everyone kind of has their own version of it. But I remember everyone had like little platforms and everyone got stripes. And I remember you went to the prom and you got your shoes. You were the first one that started the war. And there was a war between me, you, and Astro. And everyone kept going
Who can
higher
be
and
the
higher.
tallest
Yeah,
club kid
it
in
was
the
a platform
world?
war between me, you,
Oh
and
my
Astro.
God.
And I think in the end, me and you gave up, and Astro went like a little higher
But
than
yeah, I was
you.
like, girl, I can't keep hitting my head. I was like,
No,
you win.
where
Go
were
take
you
it.
went? I remember I got the Kenny ones, and then I was just like, okay, I'm not going to add to it. We're fine.
Yeah, we're already stumbling, bumbling around. We don't need to like fall from, 2 feet up higher.
What was your favorite outfit that you wore at the beginning? Because we'll get into the other stuff in rapid fire.
I'm gonna say there were people with absolutely mind-boggling looks. I mean, when you think about Kabuki or when you think about
Ooh,
Walt, makeup. I mean, listen, I was like a hack. I mean, at one point I remember like I was like a cassette tape and you could fold back, like you would fold it back, and I like made ridiculous eyebrows. I mean, I was not that sophisticated. So when I look back and I see other people's outfits, I mean, those were just, some of them were like works of art. I was a little more scrappy. And so I will say, I think my favorite look, and this goes back to you, when we went to Wigstock and we did that photo shoot, that the two of us, the Jenny Kenny combination, I thought was so fun. I mean, between the hair on our heads, and of
yeah.
course I was bald, so it started back here. So it was, just pretty extreme. And then our hair skirts, and just that, I feel like that photo shoot you could see how much we loved each other. I mean, there was, and it was like we were melding. We were like, it was like, who's Kenny? Who's Jenny? I don't even know at this point. We are one. And then it was used in Project X, the lovers issue. But I think that really was really my favorite.
But I have the Polaroids from that shoot, and those are like two things that I hold on to, and they're crinkled and got coffee on them. But like it's a memory. That
Yeah.
was my memory of the moment. Like I said earlier, it's like that New York moment where we made something and you found someone from the same planet coming from Orange County, California, and landing in New York and finding a person, and creativity and all of that stuff that was suppressed came out. And yes, a shout out to Kabuki, to Walt, and to Christopher Buckle for like
Oh
the
my
makeup,
God.
the makeup that they brought. Like we brought shoes.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
brought face, girl. They
Well,
brought
like here's a little
face.
mascara and a little boop boop boop. It was,
They brought face. It was, yeah, and inspiring. Remember
yeah.
that no eyebrow look?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, here I am, no eyebrows since 15. I mean, it's so, yeah, of course. And when I was bald, it was like a very alien look. But the girls at the girls club, they go, "Jenny, show me your eyebrows." And
I love it.
I said, "I'm very angry."
Yeah. Oh, you make me so happy. What did you think right after? What came first? It was Calvin Klein, right? And then Gautier, right?
So actually, reverse order. It was Jean-Paul Gaultier. I
Did he
was
find you in the nightclub?
It was Michelle Saunders, who is a dear, dear friend of Pat. I was working in the store and she found me and said, "You should model." And I was like, huh, okay, I'll try. Why not? And then things kind of started happening. I started, doing photo shoots or whatever. And then I was chosen to be in Gautier's show. I also did his campaign and he actually photographed it. So I went to Paris. I opened the show and Madonna closed it. So that was wild. And Steven Meisel was in the audience. And that is when I got back to New York, I got the call that he wanted me in the Calvin Klein campaign. And I showed up. There was a bunch of models. They put us in all different configurations. It was before the CKB thing, where it was a line of everyone. So then they did single shots. I had no idea what was going to come of it. And then I got a call, was like, "Oh my God, have you seen Vogue? You're literally on a full page in Vogue." And I was on the sides of buses and billboards, and
And you
and then
were 18 or 17?
I think I was 18 at that point.
I'm a childless cat lady. Say hi, Carmen.
Oh, love childless cat ladies.
Uh, um, ooh, so that was 18, right?
Yeah,
Wow, what year was that?
I guess 94.
94? That's where things kind of changed. It was like
Yeah.
you did that. I remember I got the cover of the New York Times style section. I
Yes.
guess it was the
Yeah.
first color picture. Like,
Yeah. I
and
remember people would stop you on the street. That was like, I mean, from New York
we
Times.
somewhere we became fashionable. You know what
I
I mean?
know.
And I remember there were a couple like New York moments like after the thing with you. I think being on the back of the truck when in Bjork's video.
Yes.
Um, I think it was me, Walt, and Carlin, and watching like driving through Manhattan for Big Time Sensuality, and we were just on the truck, and that that was a moment. And then I think the when we did I put together the House of Field Outlaw Fashion Show, and we went ice skating,
Oh yeah.
and there
Oh
was
yeah.
like 3,000 people at the lighting of the Christmas tree,
Mhm.
and and there was like 40 of us, and Pat, I was like, I want to do this, and she was like, okay. And so she paid for the taxis to get there, and some vodka, and for us to enter. And so 40 of us went on we got there early and with our vodka, and we went skating. And I remember Amanda, I think I had reserved seats at the restaurant, and Amanda was sitting there as we circled
Yeah.
around just beautifully, like. And I remember looking up and seeing Mistress Formica, and I was just like, this is a moment. This, like, all of us on ice, and I think you and I
Yeah.
were in showgirl headdresses and baby dolls or something like that, or waitress outfit, something. But we had
Yeah.
headdresses, didn't we?
I think so.
Showgirl
I
headdress.
think I had like like weird furry ears or something. I
Oh,
don't
right.
even
I can't
remember. It was,
remember.
I
It's
don't know.
all,
There was Kenny, you did a few of these, so
yeah.
who
My
knows?
favorite one that ended up in Harper's Bazaar. My favorite one was when we went to go mail our taxes, and you had till midnight on tax return. And I don't think any club could really have their taxes in the
Yeah.
envelopes. I think we all just put empty envelopes in there. But we went up the stairs through the thing and came back down. And it was just a party on the steps, and someone brought a ghetto blaster. I remember.
Those outlaw parties, that was yeah, in such an iconic, like, the main post office and those stairs and that grand building. I mean, it was, yeah,
Fun.
we really ran around the city like crazy. And
And
yeah,
this it was accepting.
yeah, I mean, I think, we really had a moment. It was like every other, daytime talk show had, club kids on at one point, um and the fashion industry was interested, and I think people were just like, wow, look at these people living this wild life, and look what they look like, and their self-expression, and we're not holding back. We can be our true authentic self and be as wild and wacky and out there as we want. We kind of the confines of normalized society, just kind of we did not follow those. We made our own little society.
When I got sober, it was like, um, it is, I think it's important for me to remember why I got sober and what the last, moments look like. But I also have to remember that the first part of it was fun.
Yeah, and I
Like you say, that it's fun, and then fun with problems, and then just problems. But it was fun and creative and just self-discovery. And I met you, and I met Walt, and I met Astro, and I met these beautiful people that you know said, and Patricia Field did, that said, here, go on a pine trip and follow your thing, your eye. And she helped me discover that, and the freedom of it. And you guys were like, oh, I remember I went to go host a party in Jersey, because this is when club kids were like, we were being sent to other places and paid. And so we went to Jersey, and we got in the limo, and Amanda it was me and Amanda, and she looked so gorgeous. And I had a pimple that night. And so I put a plastic fly on my pimple, and she
see
went,
solutions.
shook out the wig, and went. And it was just like, no one said anything. Like, everyone just kind of was like, allowed this creative freedom and self-expression. And I found that there, and it affected the way that it was, and you were, and how supportive it like you were of the creativity and that Orange County kid, that whatever. So I think it changed how I became a stylist, and how I see things, and that I have to remember that New York saved my life, and my friendships gave me life. So for that, it's the coolest thing ever. What about that time before we move into the murder, and then where you're at now?
I mean, we can go right into that. Oh, I gotta go to a baby shower. Boop. Look at that.
Now we're at the, let's say, the problems part. I remember I moved away and went to London for 6 months. And while I
Yeah.
was gone, I was hearing in London that Michael was walking around with Angel's shoes on and Angel was missing. Um, Tell me about that part when he was missing. Tell me about the apartment that smelt like I don't know what, um, and then tell me about when, because I came back and 2 weeks after, I remember opening Patricia Field's store in Soho on the first day I came back, and then 2 weeks later, um, they found Angel's body, and then
Yeah.
I got all of the, I was had been hearing everything, but it was confirmed. So
Yeah. I mean, I had before the Angel uh, absolute horrific tragedy. I had pulled way away from Michael. That is when Gitsy entered the picture. I was like, I first of all, I pulled out of nightlife. I was like working at Trash and Vaudeville at that point. I was a little more interested in the punk scene. It just became kind of toxic, and it lost that fun and being carefree and the beauty of what we had created. It had just kind of spiraled into addiction, and it was no longer fun. It was really kind of just a sad scene. Not everyone, but the majority of my, that circle just, we're not well. So I was really sick of Michael at that point. I remember, I think the last straw for me, like I had invited him to my parents' house for dinner. He showed up in a bathrobe and stinking and just was really kind of awful. And said some very hurtful things also to my parents. And I was just like, I don't need this person in my life. This is not the thing that I really kind of I fell in love with Michael, that did not exist anymore. Um, and so thank goodness I was not in his orbit, although he still, would reach out to me. I just really wanted no part of him. And this is again before Angel. And then, we all know what happened. Um, and and now, Angel was murdered. Michael is dead.
I remember I came back and um, someone had told me that, it's no longer colorful. It just has a greasy layer and it's like heroin and just
Yeah.
sweat. And remember one night I made you dress up. We went, you go, where are you going? And I said, I'm going to turn into a boy and go to a sex club. And because they allowed you to bring in at that time, it's no longer around, so I can say it. They allowed you to bring in your own liquor and check it in at the bar, and then they'd give you a receipt, and you'd go and get your own drink out of your own liquor that you brought. And so I liked that place. And then there was like a dungeon down at the stairs.
Yeah.
There was a pinball machine and a pool table, so it was more than a sex club.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we went back, and I turned you into a boy. And I turned into a boy, wore baseball caps and overalls, which was I don't know why I thought that was boy drag to me. And I dressed you up and we went in and we sat there all night drinking that stale vodka.
Oh, I know. And you bound my breath. I mean, I like transformed into like a
And no one
young,
said anything.
yeah, I know.
It was so fun.
That was
We
when
were so down for it.
they wouldn't even let drag queens in, right? It was
Yeah,
literally
yeah,
it was like
yeah,
dudes.
yeah. You couldn't, no makeup, no,
And
like
I passed.
you did, you did.
I'm so proud.
And it's really sad when you can go to those places and you're on the guest list to a place like that.
I know.
And it was like, whatever. It worked. That I remember like hearing stories about like the end of it because I had moved to New York to I mean moved to LA to try and see if I could style because when I went looking for styling work, they told me that basically a clown couldn't do fashion or music. Like,
Right.
and I was like, what do you mean? And it was like, yeah, it was just so I guess we were kind of labeled as like this clown killing posse
Mm,
in a
yeah.
sense. You know what I mean? And it was hard to get work and so I moved away and when I came back, I remember I went in and I sat with you and they were doing this thing and we sat in Tompkins Square and we had a long or at the gate on the outside, we just stood there and talked for a minute about that. And that just gave me a sense of peace because it was like, you know, we got to talk about it, what happened, the tragedy of it, the loss of a friend, you know, Angel was our friend. And it was and people going to jail and prison and people overdosing and it was a lot happened at that time. Like
Yeah.
it was a lot. And for kids to process, you know, you were like 26,
No, I was like, when did he go to jail? 90s.
7.
Yeah, no, I was 21 then.
You were 21.
Yeah, I was born in 76. I'm 48.
You
So,
were 21. I was 31.
yeah.
You're 30. Yeah. I celebrated my 30th birthday in London. So yeah. 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 Wow. Vintage girl. Vintage.
Vintage.
Vintage. And we're here. And we're here.
I
So
know.
let's talk about where you're at now. This club woman.
Well, and
Woman.
I went from the nightclub to the girls' club.
Tell me
I
about your transition.
my it was obviously very clear to me that I needed to make a drastic change that death and destruction and like I was just like, okay, this has gotten just so out of control. I was dealing with my own issues and I just said like, I've got to get out of this world and I have to do something that is not so self-obsessed and self-absorbed. And I just was like, I need to do something totally different. And a group of women were meeting to start a girls' club because there were three boys' clubs in our neighborhood. And I met Lynn, I was at NYU at the time, and she was my professor, and I took every one of her classes, and she was amongst this group of women who were going to start a girls' club. And I said, I'm in. Like I want to help, I want to support, I want to whatever you need me for. And so that was the beginning, and we would be moving around from all different spaces in the neighborhood, basement every time it would rain it would flood, community rooms, schools, over 24 locations, pushing our little shopping cart around saying someday we're going to build a girls club. And every woman, like, those women of the girls club are absolutely crazy. And I think it's the power of determined women built this space. And now we have the 35,000 square foot girls club, which has all those wonderful things that you talked about and more. And 2 years ago, we opened a space for the entire community, called the Center for Wellbeing and Happiness. So it's now not just the girl or gender expansive youth that's a girls club member. We provide free programming for her family, for her neighbors, so for all genders and generations. So yeah, I mean, listen, it is a really crazy world out there, but I get to work with really phenomenal human beings and I get to be in community, and it gives me hope every single day. So, and it literally saved my life. So,
It did.
Thank you,
It
Girls
did. I
Club.
remember. I remember visiting you, and when I came back, I remember I I I went to go meet you, and you were walking with the Girls Club, and you had a camera, and they were all taking pictures of like bugs on the floor or like a flower, and I was like, and they were little, and it was just
Yeah.
like it was just like, oh my God, she's gonna help save some lives, and the no, really, like you were that. It was you must have been 21, 22 at the time, and it just was magical to see that. It has been magical to see you just get at the front of this, because I remember when it was in a small room, and then you did it got
Mm.
it, and then it moved, and what it is now is just brilliant, and the the amount of work that you put into it and the fundraising. And I have seen you on the street marching for everything. I have seen you in pink prom dresses with all these kids. What was the pink dress thing?
We would do a walkathon every year, and um, I mean, it harkens back to my past. Like, we love a good show. We love some. We used to get these crazy dress donations that were like so over the top. So we would just be like marching through the streets with these crazy pink prom dresses and with banners and just making a lot of noise and yeah, so still having fun, still being out there, still being
And
wacky,
purpose.
being
You have
creative.
purpose.
Exactly.
What's easier, those kids or your own kids?
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo. Yes, and now I am a mother of two.
And a
Of
wife.
two.
I love you. Shout out to your wonderful husband.
I know. Oh, oh my God. My favorite picture is you and Nils and the kids, and you look like a big gay happy family. Before
You
we
look
got
like
on
my
the ferry.
husband with two children.
Yes, I know.
And
It
we're
was
on the ferry going to
remember ferries
Brooklyn.
on the ferry. Yeah, we
Uh-huh.
were going to
We're
meet
on the
Walt
ferry.
in
And I remember it
Brooklyn.
was like 10 years ago, or like 5 years ago. And we do, me and your husband look
I
like,
know.
I look like a happy wife
You sure do.
with two adorable children. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, life is a lot. I mean, helping to run an organization and having kids. I mean, listen, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world, but it's definitely not easy. So, but yeah, it's an amazing life. I mean, I think when you're at the precipice of possibly not having a life at all, which I know you can deeply understand, um, it makes all of the moments even more special because you just think, wow, what if that one night, I OD'd or whatever, none of this would have happened.
yeah. And there were those moments,
Yeah.
and you, more than anyone in my life, um, can see that darkness. I mean, knows that darkness and had seen that darkness, because it was encompassing. At the end, it was like it got so, like you said, death and
Yeah,
destruction.
no, it was like suffocating. I mean, just it was that's why I was like, I gotta get out of this. I
Yeah,
cannot do this anymore. The beauty and the wonder and the love, it just was gone. But you know what remains?
our friendship.
There you go. I love you so much.
It was, you know what? I think that I've seen so many things. People have talked about it, but I think that people forget about the creativity and the fashion of it, and focus on the murder. And which I'm not downplaying that at all, because my heart goes out to Angel's family,
Yes.
and there was a beauty of creativity. There was a wonder at the beginning, and there was fashion. It was like it was
Yeah.
for us. We thought it was, and so we were lucky to be in New York at that time, and I felt like the creativity that you and I got to see and the people that we were around shaped us. And that island saved my life. And so a shout out to New York and a shout out to just, you know, in a coming from Orange County in a time of AIDS and finding, that island and creativity in you, I'm a different human. So there's that. Okay, we're gonna go to the rapid fire questions and then we're done.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah. Woo, well, yeah. I have to go to a
Okay,
fucking
here
big
we go. Rapid
hour.
fire. Favorite 90s designer?
Well, let's just go with Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Yes.
He gave me a good start.
Mine it would be Gautier, Mugler, and McQueen.
McQueen is actually my absolute favorite, so we'll go with McQueen. But
Favorite drag queen of the time?
you know what? Lady Bunny is just like, I mean, forever, right? Come on.
She didn't even need to lip sync. I would just sit there and listen to her talk shit, and she just made
Yeah.
me so happy. There's two. The Lady Bunny was one of the first ones. The first drag show was RuPaul doing Star Booty on a go-go box at Pyramid. And my New York moment of a drag queen was when I went to um, a club and La Homa was running back and forth with toilet papering the whole dance floor. I was like, wow. And that was those were like the first months I moved there. So
Yeah.
one's,
Yeah. I would also say Mistress Formica.
yes.
And I loved Brie.
Bree was when I met Bree, she, when I went to when I first moved, I went to San Francisco for a year before New York, and she had just laid across the bridge for Act Up, and she showed up and she was in a sequin tube dress. And I was like, "You laid like that?" And she said, "Yep." And I was just like, "I'm so into you."
And Princess Deandra, I mean, I
Oh, I love her.
just had her perform for one of my amazing friends. She was a surprise for her wedding. But yeah, I mean, classique.
When I moved there, I'd have to say, um, not a drag queen, but um, Cody Ravioli saved my life.
Yeah.
Ravioli, and we lost her. And she bought me stole me my first wig, and and that kind of
Mother Cody, I mean,
yeah. Shout out to Cody Ravioli. Favorite club?
you know what? I'm gonna have to go with Limelight. I think I have some of the best memories from there because those are the early days, Disco 2000. I mean, Save the Robots was also a hoot. I mean, it was the sawdust on the floor, but anyways.
I remember my favorite robots thing is we it got raided, and
Oh
and the
God,
police were coming in, and it was like 6 in the morning, and I saw a drug dealer throw all their vials in the corner, and it was the second floor. I was in roller skates, and the second floor was sand, like a sandbox, and
yeah.
um, and so they threw it in the corner, so it didn't make any noise. I just saw it, and I told Cody, and Cody took and undid her. She had a fall, and she undid
Mhm.
her fall, grabbed the things, put them
Yep.
inside, flipped it, and we were walking out, and you could hear the clank, clank, clank,
The antics.
the antics. That was a fun moment. Favorite party you hosted?
I don't even remember.
Me either. Hey, what did you think about when you saw when because I think they recreated the bloodbath poster, which is kind of iconic, and with Chloe and Macaulay Culkin when because that was the original poster many years
Yeah.
ago was yours. What
Yeah.
did that? How'd you feel when you saw that?
I mean, and it was the Blood Feast poster for the party, which was years before the murder, because
For
people like to kind
years.
of just like, put that together, and it is not. Anyone who knew Michael knew he also loved horror movies and camp and all of that, and that's what that was. So, I mean, whatever they recreated, weirdly enough, someone from like a true crime docuseries reached out about the poster. I'm like, oh no.
It wasn't like we might show the poster, but it was it was just a club kid
Yeah,
flyer. It was a flyer.
exactly. And young Richard, they wanted to know who the photographer was. And I'm always, I think, the creative people who created these things, should get credit for them. So I did at least just write, it's young Richard, you can contact him here,
Yeah.
just to make sure it's credited to the right person.
Thank you for taking the time and encouraging me to do this, or sitting with me and walking through.
I will do anything with you. I love you. Oh,
I love you.
I
Say
gotta
hi
go.
here.
Love you. I will.
I love you. Bye.
Bye.